Thank you for that introduction, Rennie. Today I'll be taking you all through a broad overview of some of the major challenges and opportunities facing consumer packaged goods corporations and startups today. All slides will be distributed after the presentation. The CPG industry is facing major challenges today, ranging from the immediate, activist shareholders getting antsy, to the longer term, as the types of products people buy and the very ways they buy them are changing. As a brief overview, starting with short-term challenges, activist investors are everywhere. And the challenges they pose aren't just theoretical. They compound the pressures these companies are already facing, and between all these pressures, we've seen CEOs getting replaced at some of the world's largest CPG companies over the past year and a half. Meanwhile, these companies are undertaking major revamps of their portfolios. Mainly in the food space, these are companies like Nestle, Mars, Coca-Cola that have developed strong brand associations with unhealthy foods over the past 100 years, and they're now trying to shift away from candy and soda. Similarly, in beauty, we see Procter & Gamble selling some of its drugstore beauty brands like CoverGirl and focusing on more upmarket, natural and organic beauty products. But Campbell's, on the other hand, just announced it's going in the other direction, selling its Campbell's Fresh division in order to focus more heavily on snacks. These companies are chasing food and personal care products better suited to today's consumers. And as I'm sure is no surprise to anyone on this call, people are raising their requirements for the CPG products they buy. In food, it's no longer enough that products fill you up in the short term. We all want our foods to help us live to a ripe old age while maintaining great gut health, skin quality, shiny hair along the way. And it's the same in beauty. A lot of the features that may previously have been considered premium, organic ingredients, certain types of packaging, are now table stakes as brands are just battling to get noticed in the face of increased competition. And speaking of competition, we see that a number of food startups have already become significant competitors to Unilever, General Mills, and other incumbents, including Chobani, which knocked out Yoplait to become the top-selling yogurt brand in the U.S., Halo Top, which has been threatening Unilever's Breyers ice cream brand, as well as startups like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods that have gained widespread traction in the meat substitute space. And there are plenty of other threats out there beyond those top startups. Feel free to peruse these hundreds of startups when you receive the slides afterwards. And more threats will be on the way as new investors are jumping in to help drive growth in this emerging CPG startup ecosystem. These investors see major opportunities as corporations potentially show weakness, and as corporations choose to react to that weakness by increasing their M&A activity, opening up exit opportunities for these startups that investors, of course, hope to take advantage of. So we are seeing the rise of CPG specialized investors. And besides these startups that are startups and investors competing directly with through launching their own packaged products, big technology companies are also increasingly threatening CPG leaders. These companies are controlling not just online, but increasingly offline points of sale, inserting themselves into client relationships. They're also backing competitors directly, particularly in the case of Google's Google Ventures, which has backed Soylent, Ripple, other CPG startups. And they're also creating trends, societal trends that CPG companies have to react to. Alibaba, for example, effectively launched Singles Day in China in 2009. A shopping-focused, quote-unquote, holiday that brought in $25 billion worth of sales in 2017 and changed the way CPG companies think about marketing in China. And then, of course, Amazon in particular has been expanding its presence in CPG private labels of its own. We'll talk about that a bit more later on. But at the same time, the best products in the world won't help CPG companies sell to consumers if they can't get those products in front of consumers. And looking forward to longer-term threats, the way people buy products is changing, and CPG leaders need to adapt in ways that we'll discuss a bit more further on in this presentation. And in the face of all these threats, CPG leaders are trying to become proactive rather than reactive, leading to major growth in CPG companies acquiring or investing in startups, launching innovation studios, and working with startup incubator programs to try to harness some of that innovation coming out of the private markets. We'll now discuss, as a fairly high-level overview, 3 main strategies CPG leaders are using to survive the threats we've just discussed and shift from a reactive model to a proactive model. The first is vertical integration. Traditionally, as we all know, companies like Kellogg's, CoverGirl, Coca-Cola don't tend to operate their own stores. They create the products, they manufacture the products, and then sell through Walmart, CVS, etc. But now, Walmart and other retailers are investing in their own private label products, thereby pushing brands to rely less on stores and move into developing their own points of sale. Everyone on the retail side and on the brand side is blurring those lines that traditionally separated the two and trying to gain more ownership over their own client relationships. Private labels have certainly been around for a long time, for decades, but 2018 has been an inflection point as a number of retailers have started to act more like brands and really up their investment into their own private labels. This year, Albertsons, for example, is doubling its private label product launches compared to last year. Kroger is taking its private label international. Walmart has also been investing more heavily and even just launched its first private label wine brand. Sephora, which should be a role model for struggling retailers everywhere these days, has been a major leader in private label strategy. As the chart on the left here from the Wall Street Journal shows, Sephora fills its stores with more of the company's own brands than you might expect. You can read more about Sephora's strategy on our website using the link at the bottom of the slide here. And meanwhile, as I'm sure you're all aware, Amazon has been expanding its own private label products, so far mainly in apparel, not quite an immediate threat to CPG, but it's likely to move deeper into the CPG space, and of course it now also controls Whole Foods' private label. Even though Amazon doesn't currently support a wide range of CPG private label products, the company has said it plans to expand its assortment. And the key thing to keep in mind here is really data. Amazon and other retailers are well positioned to roll out their own products because they've already owned that shopper relationship and they've already gathered years and years of data on how shoppers behave. Amazon knows how often shoppers buy the products of other brands on Amazon.com, now even in Whole Foods, or how they might use Amazon's credit card, how they operate within Amazon's Prime program, and they can turn that data into well-designed, targeted products, private label products, which they can then back up with personalized marketing. And Amazon's data collection is only going to increase. Amazon, of course, now has Alexa. We also picked up a patent on CB Insights. You can read about it in more detail using the link at the bottom, but that discusses ways to capture visual data on how shoppers behave in their own homes, even shoppers' facial expressions, movements, etc. So just the point here is really the more data Amazon collects, the better positioned its own private label products will be. And this is absolutely something brands and retailers should be keeping an eye on and plan to compete, not just through perhaps releasing new products, but also through making sure they're collecting data on their own customers as well. So to do that, one way to do that is, as I mentioned earlier, CPG brands are starting to try to own their own points of sale rather than relying on Amazon or Walmart or Target to sell their products for them. So some of these stores are more of marketing plays. For example, Kellogg's recently opened a cereal restaurant in Manhattan. Cody's CoverGirl brand plans to open its first store in Manhattan as well this fall. These help attract shoppers, host Instagram-worthy experiences, and engage with shoppers directly rather than relying on a retailer to mediate that relationship. But also, brands are putting big money into these brick-and-mortar points of sale. Just the other day, Coca-Cola acquired UK-based Costa Coffee for over $5 billion, giving Coca-Cola access to nearly 4,000 stores across 32 countries, through which it can not just continue to sell coffee directly, but also gain information about shoppers to support Coca-Cola's own internal efforts. In a smaller deal last year, Nestle acquired a majority stake in premium coffee chain Blue Bottle. So all these strategies, all these moves of CPG brands into brick and mortar, into their own points of sale, help them avoid getting pushed off of store shelves as retailers choose to dedicate more and more space to their own private label products. Owning their own points of sale also helps them control their own relationships with the customer, and finally helps them gather data about the customers to feed into future marketing and product development. And then, of course, brands are using acquisitions to move online so that they can operate their own online stores and reduce their reliance on Amazon or other third-party platforms. E-commerce is not necessarily a core capability of many of these legacy CPG companies, so acquisitions can be a valuable way to gain a kind of plug-and-play solution for hopping online. Notably, PetSmart last year acquired Chewy.com for over $3 billion in one of the largest e-commerce acquisitions of all time. We've also seen plenty more acquisitions since then. Here's just a quick overview on this slide. But online, when operating online, especially for CPG categories, it's not enough to just throw up pictures of products. These companies need to also come up with new strategies to help shoppers feel more comfortable buying fresh produce, cosmetics, and other products sight unseen. This Morgan Stanley survey, for example, shows that 84% of people who don't buy groceries online make that choice because they prefer to see the produce in person. I'm sure a lot of us on the call today can relate to that. So in moving online, in trying to control their own points of sale through e-commerce, companies also need to think about what strategies they can use to make shoppers feel more comfortable. So we'll highlight a few of the more interesting strategies. For one, on a very basic level, so far brands have tended to treat e-commerce sites just like store shelves. In stores, food needs to be in packages, of course, but brands seem to be forgetting that this doesn't need to be the case online. Most websites, if you go on even to Amazon or most e-commerce websites, just simply show pictures of the product boxes. Ironically, the boxes often show a picture of the product on the box, but online, companies can actually show what's in the box. They have that freedom. The food's not going to spoil. So startup Daily Harvest on the right does this particularly well. Their e-commerce site, they're a direct-to-consumer plant-based meal delivery service, and their online site only shows photos of the prepared foods themselves or the ingredients in the food rather than the box, making the foods look much more appealing online in a way that wouldn't be possible in stores. And this also lets new shoppers in particular feel more comfortable ordering these things online without having experienced them in person. So more companies, I think, would do well to display their products online in this new way. Investing in online reviews also helps shoppers feel more comfortable and helps brands better understand what their shoppers are feeling and talking about. So we've seen some notable investments there recently. Anheuser-Busch, the beer leader, bought up a couple of general beer review sites, actually making some headlines. But the idea there is they can keep a pulse about what online beer enthusiasts are talking about and use that to inform their own product development strategy. These reviews have, of course, people would also be more likely to order highly reviewed beers online, even if they haven't tasted them themselves yet. Just the other day also, Glossier, one of the leading makeup startups, revealed plans to launch its own social networking site, which would be focused on photos of cosmetic and personal care products as well as reviews. Glossier has built up a very significant following on Instagram, but now by moving its social media photo and review site into its own platform, it can gain more control over that data while also encouraging tying those reviews to specific Glossier products and and helping people feel more comfortable shopping online. Influencer marketing is another way that brands are trying to reach out to shoppers, make them feel more comfortable buying products online. For our clients, you can check out a market map of influencer marketing startups using the link at the bottom. And looking forward a bit, augmented and virtual reality can help people see how products would actually look on them, supporting that sight unseen e-commerce purchase. Modaface has been a real leader in enabling virtual reality makeup try-ons in the beauty space. L'Oreal acquired Modaface in March 2018, but previously Modaface had powered that virtual makeup testing technology for Sephora, Estee Lauder, and other major beauty companies. We also, kind of on the more experimental side, e-commerce marketplace Boxed piloted an augmented reality feature that would let millennial shoppers living maybe in Manhattan apartments see whether bulk-sized boxes of products would even fit on their cabinets. So Boxed sells toilet paper, paper towels, snack items in bulk online. They thought that millennials might be worried that these large packages literally wouldn't fit in their apartments, and so they trialed this augmented reality feature, which didn't, of course, was not fully a game changer, but does show how this technology could be applied to items that you might not expect. Walmart, which is doing a major online push, has also considered some of these technologies, including on the left, they've looked into setting up live streams of their produce sections to help people shopping online pick out the individual apples, carrots, potatoes from the store that they'd like to order. For even more futuristically, Walmart's filed a number of patents related to setting up virtual reality storefronts and letting people shop from their home as if in a normal store environment in virtual reality, so they can see the products, interact with them, feel more comfortable buying them online. And of course, speedy delivery makes people feel more comfortable on-demand shopping online. On-demand delivery, Instacart, etc. has already taken off, but more recently, we've begun to see some fast food chains and grocery stores consider self-driving vehicles for even faster delivery. Check out, again, more information about this at the link at the bottom. We'll now take a look at how struggles in brick-and-mortar retail, familiar, I'm sure, to all of us at this point, are pushing CPG companies to consider new offline sales channels, such as automated vending machines, unmanned kiosks, and more. E-commerce is growing rapidly, of course, but the majority of purchases still take place offline, especially in the CPG sector. But as traditional retailers struggle, particularly large centralized retail locations, and as brands face pressure from retailers' private labels, CPG brands are looking for new offline points of sale to reach shoppers in unexpected locations. As a brand today, you don't want to wait for the shopper to come to you. Often they're simply not going to come. Brands need to go to the shoppers. And where are the shoppers? Well, they're at work, for one, and WeWork highlights one way that CPG brands can reach millennials at the office. WeWork, which operates hundreds and hundreds of office buildings around the world, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, has long distributed free coffee to its tenants, so it's been a major distributor of coffee. But more recently, it started to set up small retail kiosks in WeWork buildings that will stock CPG products. So far, they're focusing on CPG products made by startups that are themselves WeWork members. But we could see this model expand in the future as people may find it appealing to stock up on snacks, home goods, basic items while they're in the office, so they don't need to make that after-work trip to the store. At the bottom, there are some additional players, such as Snack Nation and Bite Foods, that are also distributing foods to the offices and could become valuable partners for startups or larger food companies. We see another interesting model is Cargo, New York-based Cargo, which sets up small kiosks, as you can see in the picture, inside Uber cars, and now also Grab, an Uber competitor based in Asia. These stock small snacks, drinks, personal care products, and cater to Uber riders. So another way to reach shoppers where they are on the go. Cargo also, since it relies on mobile, it requires users to download a mobile app in order to buy the products. It collects data through its mobile app, which it then passes back to Kellogg's, Advil, and some of the other brands it works with. Gyms could also be another valuable channel. Startup Vengo, which makes touchscreen-enabled vending machines, recently partnered with gym chain Blink Fitness to install vending machines like those you can see on the left in gyms nationwide, selling snacks, energy drinks, headphones, products like that. So another kind of unmanned retail model, more realistic than a full unmanned storefront like Amazon Go or some of those stores that have gotten a lot of press, but perhaps more convenient and along those same lines, giving shoppers a convenient way to make impulse purchases of products. Hotels have long supported impulse purchases in the form of mini bars, but brands today are going far beyond that model and beginning to open up their own hotels, which provide immersive experiences to visitors, showcasing the brand's products, and also encourage photo sharing on social media. Recently opened branded hotels include by Yves Saint Laurent, Muji, and fragrance maker Lola James plans to open one in Paris later this year. We also see this in travel. On an airplane, brands have almost literally a captive audience, and airplanes are beginning to share this with startups. JetBlue, for example, now serves products from the startup Milk Bar to some of its higher value passengers. The Emirates airline recently signed a big partnership with Plenty, an indoor farming startup, to set up an indoor farm in the UAE and provide freshly grown vegetables to airline lounges and in-flight meals. And the thing to keep in mind with all these alternative offline channels is that they are kind of a win-win for both sides, for the location and for the startup selling products, or the company selling products, since newer startups like Milk Bar, Casper, Plenty can gain an audience, while the airlines, gyms, etc. get to feel more modern and innovative and offer more perks for their guests. So if you happen to be a CPG startup on the line today, thinking about one of these alternative distribution channels, think about how you'll help the venue or the company's image beyond just making sales in the short term. Of course, pop-up stores have taken off as an alternative offline retail strategy as well. These refer to temporary storefronts normally put up by either startups or big brands like Coca-Cola that don't tend to operate their own stores. And the focus is often more about social media friendly experiences rather than on selling products. We've seen some of these have turned into kind of an Instagrammable arms race with major fake swimming pools, ball pits, artificial forests built indoors that you can walk through, rooms that look like things are floating, things like that. Some crazy strategies to stand out. But there's a company called Appear Here that's one of the leaders driving this new pop-up economy that operates a real estate marketplace and helps brands find the right space for them and set up their pop-up stores. So we've seen a lot of momentum in this space as brands look to build that shopper relationship directly and also experiment with new brick and mortar strategies. I'll now discuss some of the trends within these startup CPG products themselves, the most notable of which perhaps is the wellness trend. I'm sure you've read about wellness lately if you've opened nearly any publication. This refers to the idea that people are looking for ways to control their own health, but not just focus on weight loss or gaining muscle, but on more holistic health, happiness, energy, that sort of thing. And there's certainly a lot of sociological theories about why this is happening now that I won't get into in detail, but I think on the one hand, we've seen healthy lifestyles, fitness routines become the new luxury status symbols over the past decade or so, driven in part by social media. Partially, this was following the recession when it became a bit gauche to show off bags with big Louis Vuitton logos, things like that. People instead turned to Lululemon, turned to kombucha, and at the same time, of course, after the recession, healthcare became more difficult to access for a lot of people. And then besides that, the growing expenses of healthcare, fewer people today trust mainstream institutions, including the healthcare industry. So they're looking for foods, skincare products, wellness classes that they believe may be able to help them instead. We've seen wellness take off across verticals, from food and beverage to beauty products to corporate wellness startups to more recently a rise in sleep-focused products. Now I'll take you, I know that's an appealing graphic, and it's actually interactive on the CB Insights platform. So let me take you through a quick walk to show you the graphic and some of the highest momentum startups in the wellness space. Okay, so we've pulled up the exact same market map in the CB Insights platform. So now it's not just a pretty picture, but we can actually see how much money has gone into some of these wellness-focused startups. Soylent, for example, a big name, has raised over $71 million. We see other major players like ClassPass raised $259 million, I think now expanding into Asia. Companies like Casper with $240 million. And we can really see all the categories of the various verticals and industries all hopping aboard this wellness trend and framing their products as lifestyle solutions rather than just quick fixes to certain problems. So this is a pretty powerful graphic interface. We can then go through, see the data behind it, see all the companies, see over 700 additional companies all focused on wellness, sort by total funding, and then even click into this report button to see how much funding has gone into the overall wellness sector. In 2018 to date this year, it's been over $3.3 billion across 248 deals, a pretty significant increase from roughly $2.2 billion throughout all of 2017. Great, so again, back to static PowerPoint, but if you are interested in any of these features, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to give you a personalized demo. So we'll move on. And this is the wellness trend is particularly impacting a few industries within CPG recently, most notably the alcohol industry. Recently, beer consumption, and somewhat surprising news, has actually been falling, pushing major alcohol leaders like AB InBev, Molson Coors to diversify and hedge their bets a bit against declines in future beer consumption. These companies are beginning to invest in soft drinks, even kombucha, chai tea, and also cannabis, which many consumers view as healthier and more relaxing than traditional beer. So Constellation Brands, which owns Corona, among others, recently made a very significant bet on the cannabis space. Meanwhile, Anheuser-Busch, besides making some small investments into soft drinks, just recently created a new role of Chief Non-Alcoholic Beverage Officer and has stated that it aims to grow its non-alcoholic drink revenue from 10% to 20% by 2025. So we may see a real rise in these companies buying up cannabis startups, perhaps cold brew coffee, kombucha startups, etc., to aim to become a bit more healthier than they've been traditionally viewed. Big food companies also are looking to water, sparkling water. I'm sure we've all heard of LaCroix on the call, but recently, just the other week, PepsiCo acquired SodaStream in a $3.2 billion deal that was widely viewed as a bet on health, personalization to some extent of the drinks, but also health. And then just the other day, Danone Manifesto Ventures led a $10.6 million investment into a German startup called Mitte, which is kind of like a soda stream for mineral water. You can make your own customized mineral water at home. So these companies are attempting to move into the healthier beverage space. And retailers are also moving into wellness to drive foot traffic. Urban Outfitters, Anthropologie, Free People, both owned by Urban Outfitters, but also Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, and others all now have opened big wellness sections in their stores in an attempt to appeal to millennials. And just like in the previous section about new offline channels, brands can gain a foothold in perhaps retailers they might not have expected, because brands can lend their wellness halo to the retailers. So Hippie is on the left, a chickpea snacking startup, used this strategy to great success with Starbucks. Hippies chose as its first retail partner not a traditional grocery store, but Starbucks, where Starbucks agreed to really promote the gluten-free aspect of Hippies, the health aspect of the snack, because Starbucks, of course, itself wants to seem like a healthy option, and it can work together with Hippies there in a mutually beneficial marketing strategy. So we may see other startups following this strategy in the future. We can see Hum Nutrition already showing up in both Urban Outfitters and Nordstrom, for example. The final macro trend we'll discuss today is personalization. People have always talked about personalized products. We can see one example from the 60s of U.S. News talking about a glorious future filled with personalized foods. But what's changing now is that we have the technology to actually make this possible. To offer personalized foods and beauty products, companies need to A, understand the shopper, know the shopper's attributes. B, understand what's best for that shopper. Just because you know that a consumer has a certain type of dietary issue or challenge doesn't mean you know what foods will necessarily solve that challenge. So you need to know that. And then 3, actually produce that personalized product. So technologies now like AI, DNA testing, enhanced manufacturing capabilities, automated factories are beginning to make truly personalized products possible. And you see a few different levels to personalization. The first, the most basic level, is simply the products themselves are not personalized, but the branding is such that people feel it relates to their own personal needs. Most consumers don't wake up, despite all the wellness, the trends in wellness we just saw, most shoppers don't wake up saying, I need a beauty product with acai and probiotics and beetroot and algae and I need it now. They say, I have dry skin and I want to fix that. This famous marketing quote at the top of the slide here illustrates that idea well. Or they might say, consumers might say, I want to have more energy while I'm at work. And for brands, no matter how healthy your ingredients are, you're missing the forest for the trees a little bit if you don't tell shoppers what the impact of those ingredients do. So framing products in terms of impact on the shopper, solutions to specific problems, can go a long way toward making shoppers feel like these products are at least somewhat personalized to their needs, even if nothing about the product itself is personalized yet. The next step toward personalization is what I'd call tailored products, in which the product itself is not personally created for the shopper, but the brand helps guide the shopper to specific pre-established products based on that shopper's attributes. This brings into account this somewhat humorous quote from the CEO of personalized meal startup PlateJoy, who said, when you talk to users, everyone says, I'm so different, I'm an outlier. Everyone says that. But the same maybe dozen or 24 products do fill the needs for the great majority of shoppers. But by helping shoppers, so brands can can bridge that gap by helping shoppers feel like they're being guided toward the product that's best for them. For example, through an online quiz, as we can see here, offered by beauty startup Tata Harper. This is just a short quiz, 3 questions, but it then gives you personalized recommendations for products that people may now feel more connected with and more loyal to because they feel they've been personally curated for them. To support this personalized guidance, companies are also offering up a greater range of recipes, product formulations, and colors, especially in the beauty space. For a long time, beauty brands have focused too heavily on shoppers with light skin, but after the runaway success of Rihanna's Fenty Beauty line, which she launched last year with LVMH, which was one of the first beauty brands to offer a wide range of 40 different foundation colors from day one, and its success has inspired some of the major beauty companies like Dior, Ulta, etc., to finally expand their offerings of foundations and offer products that are better personally suited to a wider range of shoppers. Beyond that, what I'm calling level 3 personalization is fully personalized products that are created on a one-off basis for each individual shopper. A function of beauty, for example, on the left, which has raised over $9 million, does rely on an online quiz, similar in nature to the one we just saw, but the company says the quiz could result in billions of different shampoo and conditioner combinations, and Function of Beauty operates its own manufacturing facilities in the U.S. to support customized manufacturing and bottling of shampoo. This company has been growing quickly. They hit a $110 million valuation last year. We've also seen major corporations like L'Oreal back early stage personalized hair care startups, and startups including Curology in the skincare space and Prose, along with Function of Beauty in the hair care space, offering fully personalized products. Interestingly, though, along with the rise in personalized products, we're seeing a trend that may seem to be in counterpoint of standardized products like those offered by Soylent or by Brandless on the left, which has been growing rapidly and has raised $292 million. Brandless, for example, has simplified labels, as you can see, and offers just one choice within each kind of product category. So this may seem in opposition to the rise of personalized products, but in fact, both trends are solving for the same consumer pain point, which is the burden of too many choices. As you can see on the right, personalization-focused startups like Curology and skincare or Care of and vitamins emphasize simplicity, as do startups like Soylent and Brandless. And it's the same if there's just one choice, like in Brandless, in each product category, or if you in a personalized model, if you don't have to choose the product at all, you just provide some information about yourself and a product is kind of assigned to you. In neither situation do you have to spend a lot of time thinking about different options and choosing. So this is clearly, I think, a pain point for a lot of us. I'm sure a lot of us relate to that kind of analysis paralysis that can come when shopping online. So both standardized products and personalized products do solve for that pain point. Another important thing to note is that personalization captures huge amounts of data for brands. We've just seen some of the quizzes. Here are a few more from dog food startup Ollie and coffee startup Trade, which was recently acquired by JAB. And Ollie, for example, I haven't even ordered this dog food yet, but Ollie already knows the name of my dog, what breed it is, its activity level. Similarly, in hair care, Function of Beauty would know all of my deepest and darkest hair concerns, and can then design new products or design marketing messages based on that data. So for big brands thinking about acquiring some of these startups, the data gathered through personalization processes could be very valuable. On the right, we've also seen a major growth in machine vision startups such as Face++ in China. And this opens up also a range of new visual data sets that machine vision startups can offer to brands. Face++ does offer a range of services, but one that really stands out is they offer for dating sites or potentially for makeup companies to judge the beauty of consumers and potentially make personalized product recommendations based on that. So perhaps serving shoppers more effectively, but also gathering personal data for brands. Looking forward, Nestle made the news the other day as it began piloting a DNA-based nutrition service in Japan, offering users personally formulated capsules that could be turned into smoothies or other foods or beverages that would be adapted specifically to that person's needs. Campbell's Soup tried a similar strategy back in 2016 by investing in a startup called Habit.com, which promises DNA-based meal delivery services, but there's a long way to go in DNA-based diets in particular, in terms of the data whether consumers are willing to give up such a personal data set to massive global CPG companies, as well as is the science really there? The same diet does work for a lot of people, or dietary concerns are more likely affected by age, weight, activity level, more basic things like that, and DNA may not even be necessary. Looking forward, it may not be enough for the product itself to be personalized. People also want those products to be delivered to them on convenient schedules, and so personalized distribution may be the next step that companies will take. So to close out this presentation, we'll look at a few of the strategies companies are using to personalize distribution schedules. Walmart, for example, has looked into using smart appliances, including an IoT-connected trash can that would be able to tell when an empty wrapper of a product is thrown out, and then automatically order a refill of that product for the customer, have that delivered to the shopper's door with no input from the customer. So this would, of course, be on a personalized schedule. Procter & Gamble has also filed patents related to IoT tags that would go on products, be able to sense when they're almost used up, and automatically order refills for the shopper whenever that is. Pernod Ricard recently discussed offering shoppers and restaurants connected glasses and alcohol bottles to track usage, and as the director of their accelerator program said, give insights as to how people are drinking and potentially automatically order refills when the bottle is used up. So here, this is, of course, collecting very valuable data, all these IoT methods for brands about shoppers' offline habits at home, but also secondly, personalizing the distribution and delivery schedule of these products to shoppers' homes in a way that's much more convenient than locking shoppers into a monthly subscription or a weekly subscription. These using IoT, companies would be able to actually know when a shopper's used something up, or when a food product has spoiled, etc., and ship them a refill automatically. Another thing to note about these strategies is they also hedge against declines in brick and mortar retail foot traffic, as we discussed earlier. They also, for that matter, hedge against declines in website visits, since with these automatic ordering methods, the consumer doesn't need to interact with the brand at all. The IoT tag just notifies the company, which automatically ships a refill, locking in that consumer and making sure they're loyal to the brand's product. We've also recently seen news about ways that IoT, on-demand delivery, and personalized manufacturing could be combined into one. Startup Zoom Pizza, based out in Palo Alto, has already brought this model to life by using personalized pizza making robots that could personalize crust thickness, sauce amount, things like that, and automated ovens that sit in the back of Zoom's delivery trucks and personalize or adapt the heating levels of the ovens in real time based on the truck's location to make sure that when the truck is near the shopper's door, that pizza arrives perfectly cooked and fresh out of the oven. So we can see how that personalized delivery strategy can make the experience better for shoppers. Walmart has also filed patents related to putting 3D printers in the backs of delivery trucks to be able to quickly get personalized products to shoppers' doors. And in terms of personalized distribution, Walmart's has taken its thoughts even one step farther by filing a patent that describes a mini bar, almost a mini bar type setup in a person's home that would stock unsold products that Walmart would deliver based on its predictions about that shopper's needs. The shopper wouldn't even have paid for these products yet, but then whenever the shopper would take a product, they would get charged automatically. So that's fully kind of personalized, seamless distribution on the shopper's own schedule. These models could be the wave of the future as we see personalization spread from the products to the distribution schedules. Thank you. I'll take a few questions now, and also feel free to reach out by email, on Twitter. And again, this has been a high-level overview, but much more detailed information is available to users of our blog as well as clients of our CB Insights platform. You can also sign up for my weekly CPG Tech newsletter by searching for CPG Insights. Let's see. We'll start with a question here about trends in the gluten-free space. That's a great coincidence. I actually recently put up a blog post on CB Insights about this. I think gluten-free at this point is no longer it's not going to be a game changer for companies. At this point, it's kind of table stakes to have at least one or two gluten-free options for a lot of big companies, but actually using our CB Insights tool that analyzes the earnings transcripts of public company earnings calls, we can see that major executives were really talking up their gluten-free initiatives in 2015, 2016, whereas today they're still rolling out gluten-free products, but they're not bragging about them so much. So I think, going forward, we'll see a lot of momentum in dairy-free, vegan, plant-based products, as we're seeing already. And gluten-free, it will be taken for granted to some extent that most brands will have gluten-free options, but it's not a real game changer at this point, I'd say. See, we have a question. Have you seen a push by Chinese investors into the food and agriculture space? Yes, absolutely. China, there's a lot here, but we've recently seen, of course, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, Alibaba is a massive player in the food space as well as agriculture. I believe they have invested in a few machine vision for at least one machine vision for livestock raising startups. So they clearly do have some interest there, and I think what we see in China today in terms of the tech-enabled retail landscape could be a great example for U.S. retailers going forward. I would definitely recommend people check out Alibaba's chain of Hema grocery stores, which are automated, which focus on customer data collection and personalization and bundling products with services. They also have dine-in restaurants in the grocery stores that even use up foods that may not have been sold on the grocery store side of things, so it's sustainable. And since everything's tied to, since mobile payments are so ingrained in Chinese society today, this allows brands to capture massive amounts of data about customers' day-to-day habits. So I think China is absolutely a place to watch. We've also seen some initiatives on food safety, huge issue in China. There's been some talk about lab-grown meat. I believe there's a joint initiative with Israel to help bring lab-grown meat to China. So I do imagine we'll see that beginning to take off over the next few years. Let's see, and a question about lab-grown ingredients, which is somewhat similar. There's been lab-grown ingredients happen in the news in the U.S. recently since states at the federal level and at the state level, some meat producers are beginning to push back and advocate for labeling requirements that don't allow plant-based products to be labeled as meat or dairy. So I think, but overall, I think these products have been growing, have been expanding, and while consumer education is needed, I think that the health impacts, the environmental impacts, and the personalization enabled by creating a food in a lab or creating a personal care product in a lab rather than having to base that product off an animal are huge. And the product, ultimately, people aren't going to buy for example, lab-grown burger. Most people are not going to buy a lab-grown burger just because it's not made from a cow. That burger also has to be affordable and also has to maintain at least a relatively similar taste profile to the natural burger. But I don't see kind of inherent customer distrust as being a major mainstream challenge over the next decade. I do think we'll see some significant backlash from the meat producers, although many meat producers like Tyson and Cargill are already involved in the lab-grown space, having made investments there themselves. but we'll likely see backlash focused on nostalgia, naturalness, similar to what we saw against GMO ingredients. So it'll be interesting to watch, but I do believe that lab-grown ingredients are coming. So thanks so much. Again, please send your questions in and check out additional more deep dives into some of these topics on the CB Insights blog. Thank you.